We want no more segregation. We will accept no more discussion of segregation. And I would appreciate it if you would stop shaking your head in agreement when I don't think you understand what we are talking about.
Freedom is merely privilege extended unless enjoyed by one and all.
Hi, and welcome to Rainbow Shelter News. Sorry for the slight bit of delay when talking about stuff. I also saw my microphone was picking up a lot of the noise of the various computer stuff. That's its own thing. And the air conditioner, I think, potentially too. Maybe? I don't know. Anyways. The important thing is it's able to pick up my voice. At least I think that's an important thing. Anyways, as always, this is the news. There's potentially distressing topics because it's news. Nothing, obviously nothing like hypergraphic or anything like that. It's just, it's the news. So we're going to start. A Brooklyn man faces hate crime charges and stabbing aboard train on first day of Pride Month. Now, this is not super surprising. Hurling homophobic insults at a passenger, stabbing a sharp object into the victim's right arm, and fleeing from the train. So, I mean, the nice thing about this is... I was gonna say surprisingly murder-free time. No, there's been less individual hate crime related stuff. There's been mass hate crime related stuff. So it's not really best thing. A gay man's wrist is slashed to the bone at the start of Pride Month. Unless that's just oh, okay, that was the... Okay, this is... Okay, he was stabbed to the wrist. I didn't realize it was the same article. My bad. So, this is more about that. It was deep, harsh, but everyone survived. A gay rugby player may never play again due to homophobic person breaking his ankle. This is one of those things where... UK doesn't have the same same dog whistles as America. So a gay Irish rugby player may have to retire his boots after a violent homophobic attack left him with a shattered ankle and a fractured eye. So, after a night out at a iconic LGBT plus bar, George Bar in Dublin, Evan Somers was left with his ankle facing away from his body in a brutal homophobic attack. Somers was walking through the city when a lone man walked up to him, called him the F slur, and punched him in early hours of the 10th of April. A member of Emerald Warriors, RFC, Ireland's first LGBT plus inclusive rugby team. He now fears that he may never be able to play the sport again. so obviously there's a lot of psychological stuff with this, and because it's a traumatic event, it shouldn't be a shock that traumatic events leave negative reactions. So here in America, a woman told police she was pregnant prior to officers shooting her multiple times, witnesses say. So a witness to a recent police shooting in Kansas City area says the woman who was shot told officers she was pregnant prior to them opening fire on her. Per report from regional outlet, she was shot by police during their response to alleged carjacking call. Officers with the Kansas City Police Department in Missouri. Oh, because there is a Kansas City, Missouri. That's so weird to me. Anyways, are said to have been responding to a prior dispatch from police in Kansas City, Kansas, Kansas, about the alleged carjacking, at which point they're said to have been given license plate info. The vehicle in question was spotted in the parking lot of Family Dollar, with police claiming the male driver, quote-unquote, ran away northeast and was later apprehended. The woman, since named, since name has been brought out, is alleged to have fled into the parking lot. The initial report said to in initial reports, she's said to have been seriously injured and taken to a nearby hospital. She reportedly since has been described as being in a stable condition. Providing a bit more context, meanwhile, is a separate report from the Kansas City Star that includes a number of comments from a witness. She did not pull out a weapon at them. Witness told the Star she did not even have a stick in her hand. The witness also shared footage of the aftermath, which I'm not showing. When the woman exited the same car with her hands up, police are said to have told her to get on the ground. Per the witness, at this point the woman informed officers she was pregnant and could not get on the ground. Later, when witness told Star, the woman informed police there was a gun inside the vehicle. At another point, she began backing towards a fence when officers, weapons drawn, approached her. Shortly after, the witness said police shot at the woman multiple times, according to the witness, 5 times. The Missouri State Highway Patrol, now investigating the shooting, has cited multiple reports claimed a gun belonging to the suspect was found in the parking lot. It's just... police are awful and racist. On slightly brighter news, San Francisco Mayor unveils $6.5 million plan to eradicate trans homelessness. So, if you don't know, discrimination brings about a lot of stuff. I know there's a lot of studies with relation to the average trans person being much poorer than the average cis person. Basically, for LGBTQ, you have an increased chance of getting kicked out of your home by your parents and ending up on the streets. So San Francisco Mayor London Breed has proposed a 5-year plan to end all transgender homelessness in the city. On Tuesday, right before Pride. Oh wait, no, Tuesday, May 31st, yeah. Oh, not quite before Pride. Bit before. I was mixing up April and May, or no. Yeah, May 31st would be right before Pride. I was mixing up May and March now. Anyways. Breed vowed that San Francisco would aim to end trans homelessness by 2027. It would seek to house approximately 400 trans homeless people in the city, as well as any future homeless individuals through 150 long-term investments through the city's flexible housing subsidy pool program. Trans, non-binary, and gender non-conforming San Franciscans are 18 times more likely to experience homelessness compared to the rate of the general population, Mayor Breed said in a statement. We know that the rates are even higher for our minority trans communities. Yeah, and their behavioral health things. It's one of those things where, although I will admit this does feel a bit like a Band-Aid not dealing with fundamental things. Still a good thing, but not addressing things, and there's a concern, even though there's a higher risk of homelessness amongst a lot of LGBTQ people. I'm concerned that this will create a perceived hierarchy structure, in which case, trans people getting special treatment will be a talking point used by people to hate trans people further. Although there's a lot of stuff which causes them to do that anyways. Elementary school hit with a disgusting graffiti after right-wing newsletter attacks a trans student. So, locals believe the message was in response to a teacher's affirmation of a trans student. It says, "Pervs walk here." Pervs work here. Yeah. Thank you, Jinx Tiamat. Yeah, it's just... It's awful. She just said that the student went by one name, and the teacher now we're going to refer to the student by this name. And she said we support all the kids in this classroom, and that was it, and it wasn't a big deal. The teacher received support from the Conejo Valley Unified School Board. This is a place of learning, and every student has a fundamental right to be safe in a place of learning, and everyone, regardless of their age, has the right name and claim to their identity. But recently, local newsletter, the Conejo Guardian, published an article titled "Third Grade Teacher Promotes Gender Confusion in Classroom." Because, of course, they call it gender confusion. They always call it that. Quoting one parent decrying radical sexual agendas. And then the next day, graffiti appears on the thing. I know. Yeah, and this is in Ventura County, California, but it's with a lot of the anti-LGBTQ sentiment, along with just outright lies that are occasionally spread, and then people believe, painting trans people as villains. Some of them are outright lies, some of them are manipulations of aspects of the truth. Yeah. So, it's a good thing you got here, Jinx Tiamat. Despite the first ever right to repair law, there's no easy fix for wheelchair users. Colorado lawmakers approved a measure that will make it easier for people to fix their power wheelchairs when they wear out or break down. But arcane regulations and manufacturers create high hurdles for nationwide reform. And I know you've brought this up to me before, Jinx Tiamat, but yeah, it's very much yeah, so instead, track the manufacturer, ordered several buttons online for $20 each, and discovered that replacing the part was simple to plug. The multi-billion-dollar power wheelchair market is dominated by two national suppliers, Numiton and National Seating and Mobility. Kids need support to experience their identities and safety, yes. Both are owned by private equity firms that seek increased profits and cut spending. One way to do this is limiting what they spend on technicians and repairs. So, the $70 billion durable medical equipment market has been an attractive target for private equity investment. So regulations set by Medicare and adopted by most Medicaid and commercial health plans have led to that's, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that statement, but Medicare's use of competitive bidding bidding favors large companies. Okay, that's less the regulations and the way the that's not that's not the regulations. That's how Medicare does business. Yeah, DMA companies have been pulling this crap for years. It's a racket and they exploit it. Yes. Power wheelchair users have long been fighting for the right to repair their wheelchairs themselves or through independent repair shops. Medicare and most insurance companies will replace complex wheelchairs only every 5 years. What bothers me is that the wheelchair company, knowing that the buttons wear out, won't keep any in stock. They'll risk my husband, this is a woman they interviewed, they'll risk my husband's life, but they won't risk $20 to buy a button and not get reimbursed for it. So Colorado legislature passed the first in the nation right to repair bill for power wheelchairs that will allow owners and independent repair shops to access parts, embedded software, tools, and documentation needed to perform diagnostic, maintenance, or repair services. Colorado Governor Jared Polis is expected to sign the bill into law in June. The right to repair bill may help, said Mark Schmelter, an associate professor of rehabilitation science and technology at the University of Pittsburgh, but it's not a perfect solution. There is a serious problem with wheelchair repairs, and the consumers are basically crying out for help, he said. The manufacturers have lobbyists too and are just shit. The DMEs hate doing repairs, yes. Yeah. Anyways, I just want an excuse to use some of the new emojis. So, part of the problem is Medicare's decision not to cover preventative maintenance for power wheelchairs. Actually, this is a problem throughout all of Medicare and Medicaid. Preventative care tends to not be viewed as important. Like, what I was charged for dental stuff was the preventative care with the unexpected dental bill. But yeah, many wheelchair users are unfamiliar or unable to do routine maintenance, such as tightening the bolts or cleaning the casters. As a result, problems aren't addressed until something breaks down, often leaving the user stranded, or worse. Brokenwheelchairs.com by Users for Users. Yes. You know what? Just so people can see it, because they're not necessarily going to see chat. So this is brokenwheelchairs.com. So wheelchair joystick, module, service manuals, error documentation, repair walkthroughs and programming, YouTube video notes. So this is a whole series of links, and like, said brokenwheelchairs.com is the name of the site. So if you use a wheelchair and need help, the site might be an avenue to help you get some actual help or address that. Yeah, additionally, medical care officials have interpreted the additionally, Medicare officials have interpreted the statute establishing payment for durable medical equipment to cover wheelchairs only for in-home use. Consequently, many power wheelchairs aren't designed for outdoor use and are prone to failures when users take them outside. Because, of course, why would yes, Gigi. Why would of course they don't want wheelchair users outside their homes. But yeah, essentially there are issues, but this could potentially help get the information out there everywhere. I found a way to destroy Starbucks so Antifa doesn't have to throw bricks through their windows anymore. All you need to do is get every Starbucks shut down is unionize them. So far, every Starbucks that has been unionized has been closed. I mean, yeah, but that's its own... Yes and no. Thank you. Thank you for the comment, by the way. I'm sorry. Yes. We'll get to the Starbucks unionization story. But yeah, no, it's Starbucks is the worst. So Florida, of course, Florida is doing something awful. Florida threatens to fine Special Olympics $27 million over vaccination requirement. And now, so a lot of people in the Special Olympics are immunocompromised. Because of this, they need everyone to be vaccinated. They're a high-risk population for COVID. You have a bunch of high-risk people together, and yeah, you're going to want that. But of course, Governor Ron DeSantis, the jerk that he is, decided, no, because you're requiring it, you know, to keep your athletes alive, we're going to fine you $27 million. And because I don't know why Ron DeSantis finds a new way to be awful. I think, although not the only awful one, because baseball players in Tampa Bay, so several Tampa Bay Rays players removed rainbow logos from their jerseys before taking the field this weekend for the team's annual Pride Night at Tropicana Field in St. Petersburg, Florida, referring to LGBTQ identity as a lifestyle. Yeah, no, Florida is the worst. By the way, because my mind's back on the Starbucks thing, because it's a comment made. I mean, yeah, I mean that's clearly a disincentivization to unionize. I'm not sure if that's good or bad, but yeah. Yeah, a lot of it comes down to faith, a faith-based decision, says Adam, who is chosen by the team officials to speak for the players. Yeah, it's just... And this is right with the Don't Say Gay bill, of course. But yeah, there's not much to say here. Some people in Florida are awful. Florida's a shit show. Yes, Jinx Tiamat, it is. So New Orleans Starbucks workers become the first in Louisiana to unionize. I might have missed the closing down, because this was a couple days ago. Workers at Starbucks in New Orleans have filed for union certification, becoming the first of the coffee's giant stores in Louisiana to unionize. Before employees will be able to negotiate a contract with Starbucks, the now unionized employees will have to wait and see if the Starbucks challenges the result. So I don't know if Starbucks has waged an anti-union campaign last several months, arguing that unions prevent the stores from serving the needs of its employees, which is the opposite of what unions do. Unions actually help the employees. Yeah. So, yeah, if Starbucks is closing this one soon, it'll be interesting to watch Starbucks fall apart. So, on to Maryland. Maryland State Police circulate homophobic challenge coin showing female genitalia. The offensive coin refers to Generation Butthurt. Is the third time the police force has created similarly offensive coins. So, I know this is a shock. Something that police, I think it's 40% of police families experience domestic abuse. And so, of course, the police forces do other awful stuff. Most recent challenge coin, named for small metallic coin-sized collectibles given to an organization's members, contains the insignia of the Maryland State Police above an explicit drawing of female genitalia. The text on the front of the coin reads, "The Big Green Vagini." And I'm not gonna repeat the other thing, but like the backside of the coin says Generation Butthurt, and I'm offended. I think people misunderstand. They worry about like this offended people and everyone getting butthurt. Yeah, the Uvalde shooter had the proper school shooter challenge coin, thus preventing the police from stopping him. I don't know enough about that particular aspect of the Uvalde shooting. I know the police were awful in that too. They were very I don't want to get shot at. But also, yeah, it's, I know there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of side stuff related to this week, but yeah, so they said, of course, they're investigating whether someone in the department created or helped sell the coins. The force has known about the coins since January, but investigators have yet to identify anyone responsible. Yeah, they just didn't bother. I assume we're talking about the coin string Tiamat, but yeah, it's yeah, about the like whole, oh, people are getting offended, you have to be careful about what you say, otherwise you'll get canceled type attitude. Like, it's just that times are changing, and some people have forgotten how to make jokes. So like, you can make jokes, and some people I think might be upset that the jokes are being made about them. Like, if I were to say, I don't know, like, is walking over to no, I can't think in terms of jokes right now. I was doing better last night. When I wasn't streaming, of course. Trust me, I am aware of how jokes can be made. It's just being like, because a lot of times it's just like, you know, oh, this person is deaf, and that's the whole joke in their mind, you know, that a person is deaf, and it's just not a good joke setup. And also, you're like, what are you trying to say with the joke? That because a lot of times jokes have a good person and a bad person. Like, self-deprecatory humor has you as the bad person. Like, you know, something along the lines of, you know, I committed a lot of crimes, but don't worry, I'm white, sort of thing. Or maybe I just find that funny. But yeah, no, it's not the simple things. So there's a active campaign to oppose assisted suicide in Massachusetts. Now, just to be clear about assisted suicide, in concept, assisted suicide is a good thing, and people in situations where someone's constantly in pain and all this stuff, you know, it's great. Unfortunately, the majority of cases are people who happen to be disabled and are considered a burden, or are told by doctors that it's like, oh, I'd understand if you want to kill yourself for existing. And so there's a lot less rigorous stopping of disabled people getting killed by, or getting state-sanctioned suicide and without proper help. Because the most people, doctors will make a strong argument to try to, you know, make extra sure if someone wants to do an assisted suicide. It's just, it's the real world versus the philosophical concept. Didn't the police just assist a suicide in Arizona? They helped to... That just feels too mean. That's... God, the police are awful. Well, I mean, too mean for me. I'm not speaking to the whole of society. Homeless people are usually people screwed over by society. The only reason I'm not homeless is because I have middle-class parents. 100%, that's the only reason. And so, like, yeah, police are police are awful. And speaking of awful police, I was upset about them decreasing the charges for Derek Chauvin. Although 2 new civil lawsuits alleging excessive force in separate 2017 cases, because of course these are not isolated cases. So I mean, I don't mind people continuing to go after Derek Chauvin, but like at the same time, Derek Chauvin getting arrested is not the end. Like, nothing has changed in the Minneapolis police department. So, like, yes, on an emotional level, I feel happy about this. Do I think it's going to make a major difference? No. Mother of a black preschooler demands answers after the teacher gives her son the Monkey Award. So, it's surprising how much people don't think racism still exists. So this person received an end of the year award from his teacher in Batesville, Mississippi. Braylon was given a Monkey Award for entertaining others. And that doesn't sound like someone who watches tons of minstrel shows. He was excited for the award, but had no idea what he was holding. It's unacceptable for me, she said. Yeah, so like the mother contacted the South Pelona School District, but with no response from faculty or staff after 6 days and several calls, which is not surprising. When Ellis finally met with a Pelona district officer, it was explained to Ellis that the award was for his quote-unquote energy, and that the teacher wasn't aware of the synonym between the history and African Americans being compared to monkeys, which I don't understand how you could not know about that. Sutton told Ellis previous to the incident that there was a meeting held with teachers, prompting them to avoid handing out awards that would raise concerns. Ellis also said they had told her an animal-themed award ceremony had taken place in Braylon's class that day. He received the day he received his Monkey Award. There's an apology. The teachers messed up. They were wrong. The superintendent knew they were wrong. The principal knew they were wrong. They need to be held accountable for what they've done, she added. I don't know. The younger generation has never been exposed to such stuff since the internet is highly censored. Yes and no. So like, well, I mean, for one, the principal, the superintendent, the teachers, chances are all three of those people are likely Gen Xers. I seriously doubt that they're... This is Mississippi, and the teacher and staff knew. Yeah. The other thing is, like, when it comes to the internet isn't everything, and also there's a lot of racism on the internet. You're just more likely to experience it in some places, and depending on how open you are. But like, yeah, the internet is not like that censored. People are just more aware of what's going on oftentimes. Elections clerk vowed to remove people in guardianships from voter rolls. So in rural Missouri County, residents who have been appointed a court guardian, such as people, disabled people, may soon lose the ability to vote. Alternate story: mother enraged when child comes home crying. They didn't win the Monkey Award. My son didn't win it because he is black. I don't think that's a story. I mean, for one, I don't know enough about the whole breakdown of stuff, and obviously the kids don't know any better. But like, I don't believe most mothers would be would be pissed off, and that I don't believe that circumstance is very likely, given the reality of reality. Like just based off of some of the aspects of discrimination I have faced, like LGBTQ discrimination. Like, I seriously doubt Black people don't experience tons. I mean, there's so much stuff, like if Black people grow their hair out naturally, it's viewed as unprofessional, and how many other things? There's a bunch of other stuff where it's just little things that add up, and yeah, sometimes it's a little bit harder not to see it when it's stuff that affects your life. I've seen The Reality of Reality recently. It would not surprise me in the least. I don't know what you mean by that. So Pamela Grow, the Republican clerk of Phelps County in central Missouri, told the Phelps County Commission last week she would be removed from voter registration if all people considered by a court to be incapacitated, even if the court expressly said a person has the ability to vote. So basically, certain disabled people are getting their rights stripped away. And yeah, that's still awful. Like, people should be able to vote. There's a series of functions that there's a series of functions of control, and stripping the right to vote is one of them. And I don't know how much is people not wanting to see disabled people or listen to disabled people, but oftentimes when it comes to any marginalized group, it's people wanting to shove people away and to try to remove them from what they can be aware of. So a school banned the rainbow flag from being flown. Students and teachers had the best response. Instead of flying the one pride flag that got banned, they flew a whole bunch of pride flags. Students and faculty in New Jersey rallied to show their LGBTQ pride after a school board policy prevented them from hoisting a rainbow pride flag on the flagpole in front of their school. After students at Passaic Preparatory Academy raised the flag last June for Pride Month, the Board of Education said it realized there was no policy covering which flags could be flown in front of schools. They worked to implement a policy that only allows for American flag, New Jersey state flag, or school flag to be flown. And then there was a protest for that, and because it's policy specifically to stop solidarity, and there needs to be solidarity to some degree to try to get meaningful change done. because Ohio is the worst, Ohio Republicans pass a bill requiring genital inspections for school sports. Girls and women accused of being trans will have to be examined under what opponents call a truly bizarre bill. Now, given the number of conservatives in the Republican Party who are rapey or are awful people, they passed a bill requiring certain high school and college athletes competing in women's sports to have their genitals inspected to ensure they're not trans. HB 61, known as Save Women's Sports Act, was intended to prevent trans women and girls from participating in school athletics. Under the Ohio High School Athletics Association current guidelines, trans women and girls must have completed a minimum of 1 year on HRT and demonstrate they do not possess physical or physiological advantages over quote-unquote genetic females of the same group. The new law just, bypasses what are effectively Olympic-style standards. Although I think I can't remember if the Olympics moved it to 2 years on HRT, which understandable, but trans men guaranteed should compete against men, and I don't. It's It also doesn't help that if a woman happens to look like she's trans or whatever, because she's too manly or something, she'll be forced to go through a genital inspection, which is its own form of creepy sexual assault type thing, where certain conservatives seem to really want to inspect underage girls' genitals. And just gonna leave it at that. So a human rights movement, quote unquote, disguised as a coffee shop, employs and empowers people with disabilities. So apparently in Washington, D.C., I believe, or is it, I thought I read later that it was Washington, D.C., but anyways. So, because of various employment discrimination, because 19% of people, disabled people, are employed. So, because disability is like a pretty broad range of stuff. And according to the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, employers may not discriminate against people with disabilities and must provide quote-unquote reasonable accommodations to level the playing field to get a job and perform it successfully. Now, given the lack of accessibility everywhere, like if you look at every building around you, chances are there's a bunch of stairs. And given the previous story about the disincentivizing of people and the making it difficult for people to get the wheelchair they need, that isn't completely based on home stuff, it doesn't help. So there are wheelchairs that are capable of going upstairs. They're not covered by anything. Or, well, not necessarily stairs, but at the very least, curb things. But, so, 19% people with disability employed compared to 63.7% of people without a disability, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Now, just some of that is due to the structure of jobs. I have a phobia against vaccines, so they can't fire me for not getting a vaccine due to my disability. That's not how that works, but So there are people. So the whole point of the vaccine is that most people need a vaccine. Or sorry, most people can get a vaccine, and the important thing of getting a vaccine is so that people who can't have get a vaccine due to medical stuff are not at greater risk. It's sort of like this doing your part to help humanity sort of thing. And yeah, I mean, most places have like a right to fire, so they can fire you for any reason. I know I have been fired because of a company not wanting to deal with a workplace an OSHA violation. So there's an OSHA violation, there was a case going on, and they quickly created a bunch of excuses to fire me, so that they didn't have to pay as much to people because of the OSHA violation. The OSHA violation was having a chemical out that caused me and a couple other coworkers to get sick. Companies don't care. Companies will fire you for whatever reason. It depends on who your manager is, and it depends on the attitude of the company itself. So this place was created to as a place where disabled people can work, so that people can have a meaningful experience. A lot of people want to work, and getting work isn't always easy, and some of it relates to companies shooting themselves in the foot. Shift thinking from charity to prosperity is a good way to break down. You're not pitying disabled people. Medical phobia not covered under the ADA. Thanks, Strings Tiamat. Anyways, so many of the organization's leadership are disabled, but basically through disabled people working, it'll the goal is to show that to other places that, you know, disabled people aren't inherently useless. Although I don't know that they'll affect. I understand that. My mom was fired from her job because they're firing eight black employees and didn't want to get sued for discrimination. So my mom, who is white, also got fired. It was BS. I mean, that sounds like yes. Companies are the worst, and it's because of the general corporate structure, which is, that's a whole conversation. Corporations are there to make money, so they will excuse and do whatever they can if it's what's in their best interest to make money, and that includes paying people less and fighting against unions, spending millions of dollars fighting against unions. But yeah, these people hope it'll someday have a global presence. I don't know that it will, but every little bit counts. Every little bit makes some amount of difference. So the world's first fully ADA compliant boutique hotel opens in West Virginia. So I don't know if they're saying that because so this is a Schoolhouse Hotel in Silver Springs, will be the world's first hotel to fully comply with the ADA regulations. celebrate its grand opening. So the ADA was passed in like I already forgot the year. It was like 1981 or something, 1982, something like that. I want to say, and this is the first hotel. This is the first place that disabled people can go to. 1993. Oh, how I have such assumptions that things. I mean, to be fair, I thought Roe v. Wade was passed like at turn of the century. I didn't realize it was the 70s. Like, I always think it's so easy to think things are further back than they are. So yeah, ADA was passed in 1993, and this. Finally, there's a hotel that is properly ADA, properly complies with ADA regulations. So, like, you see a lot of places in there, like, this place is accessible, but they only really mean partially accessible. They don't mean, like, that it's actually accessible, like, it actually follows the ADA regulations, so, like, 30-degree ramps, all this other stuff, which is helpful for a number of things, whether it's pushing baby carriers. I need to visit the hotel for content. Yeah. Well, it's in West Virginia, so I think it's closer to you than me, if I recall correctly. Maybe we just need to meet up in this place in West Virginia. But so the building has various schools until 2019, when it was purchased by the Disability Opportunity Fund and converted into the Schoolhouse Hotel. And so every single room is completely accessible, every public space is completely accessible, and we're trying to change the thought behind disability, as well as showing hotels that this is the way to make a hotel. Now, you can't have the cramped corporate attitude and make something that's genuinely good for people. Collaboration, yes, please. Yeah. No, collabs are good, and I know we're also way too poor to realistically do this. So, multiple people reportedly shot in Wisconsin during funeral for man killed by police. The funeral for Deshante King in Wisconsin, there were 5 people reportedly shot in the funeral. 35. Basically, Deshante King, who was shot by police last month. Gunfire erupted 2:30 p.m. In the cemetery, and authorities have not identified the victims. However, an employee of the funeral home told outlets King's family members were among those who had been injured. Yeah, it's like that is cold. That is a special kind of cruel and cold to shoot people celebrating a funeral, or well, I say celebrating a funeral, experiencing funeral rites. Nancy Reagan, of course. Nancy Reagan, honored by the White House on the first day of Pride. This is just such a yeah, so a lot of people up in arms at White House kicked off Pride Month by announcing new postal stamp honoring former First Lady Nancy Reagan. And I don't know how they thought this was a good idea. I believe it was Jill Biden who did this. In recent reports, Nancy Reagan actively turned her back on Rock Hudson, who was a close friend when he reached out to the White House for help as he was dying from an AIDS-related illness. But yeah, Nancy Reagan, not a good choice. Not a good choice. Celebration, funeral, life, very valid for many Christians. I think it's very valid for a lot of people of a lot of different cultures, because it's closure. Like, people need closure. Black blind artist makes history, elected as Grammy New York board governor. So, EDM singer-songwriter and record producer Lachie, best known for her work bringing disability inclusion and equity discussion to the mass market music industry. She is also known to be to go by her full self-description. She, her, black girl cornrows. Very public about her experience as a blind recording artist, made history as being elected as 2022 Recording Academy New York Chapter Board Governor, which in a strong effort to promote diversity, which is always a good thing. Music has for a long time dealt with a lot of rights-related stuff, and because people listen to music. I know that sounds kind of obvious, but like, it affects people in a meaningful way. So, U.S. TBF Tammy Faye Baker was very supportive of gay and HIV positive people, in contrast to Reagan. Yes. Biden, the whole Democratic Party is like center right if you're looking at it from an international perspective. There are the only politicians who are even kind of left are like Bernie, AOC, and maybe a few others. UFC fighter Jeff Molina slams fans who mocked him for wearing rainbow shorts. The fighter responded by saying fans should just be decent fucking people. UFC star Jeff Molina isn't pulling any punches against homophobic comments made by fans after he was spotted wearing Rainbow Pride Month shorts during his fight against Zhalgas Zhumagulov. In an interview following his victory, Molina hit back against trolls, saying, "Who the fuck cares about what he wears?" Molina went on to say that any fan who has an issue with him wearing pride shorts should just be a decent fucking person. The shorts were mostly gray, however, they bore Molina's name in a rainbow font. Drew criticism from friends who called the fighter a virtue signaler. In the same interview, Molina went on to express why he wore the shorts. Turns out it was no accident. I picked the colors because I thought it looked cool, and also it supports a good cause. It wasn't that long when there was school segregation. There's still school segregation, by the way. It's just a different school segregation than what people talk about. Something like Stonewall Wall was 50 years ago. This is recent shit. I just thought in 2022 people would be a little more open-minded and not pieces of shit, but I guess I was wrong. So, Amazon. 30 employees hold die-in during Amazon's Pride event to protest sale of transphobic books. So, I mean, for one, I know of at least one transphobic book. Well, we like him. Yeah, that fighter seems like a good guy. Protesting is a risk that a lot of us are willing to take because we can't continue to work for this company and turn a morally blind eye to its policies. Roughly 30 Amazon employees staged a die-in protest during a Pride event at company's Seattle campus this past Wednesday. The protesters criticized the retailer's continued sale of books portraying trans people as a dangerous mental illness. The protest occurred during the ceremony where leaders of the company-sponsored LGBTQ affinity group Glamazon sought to raise the rainbow flag in observation of Pride Month. But because of corporate attitudes, obviously, they don't care too much. Member of the employee activist group No Hate at Amazon interrupted the ceremony with the die-in, covering themselves with trans flags and lying on the ground of a public breezeway between two Amazon buildings. Glamazon leaders tried to end the protest several times before they announced the cancellation of the ceremony. The die-in highlighted the fact that transphobic views lead to the death of trans people, both through anti-trans violence and suicide. Studies have shown that lack of societal acceptance contributes to high rates of suicide among trans youth. So yeah, I think I know this study. It's a lot of people, like, if kids are just accepted, that's all it takes to significantly reduce the suicide rate. From like the 40-50% down to like 10% or less, like what you normally see in terms of suicide attempts, rate of suicide attempts. So, in particular, protesters take issue with Amazon's continued sale of the transphobic Abigail Shrier's 2020 book, Irreversible Damage, the Transgender Craze Seducing Our Daughters, which is awful. It's an awful book, and yeah, that's what I assumed the main issue was, because yes, Amazon is still selling this book. Target isn't, and admittedly I called Target up, and I'm sure lots of people did, but if you're going to pretend to support Pride, at least try not to be this big of a jerk. Protesters also take issue with Amazon selling anti-LGBTQ conservative pundit Matt Walsh's The Johnny the Walrus, a children's book that mocks trans youth by comparing gender dysphoria with pretending to be a wild animal. This is that's a common sort of talking point, among others. An Amazon spokesperson wrote, "We respect our employees' right to express themselves without fear of retaliation, intimidation, or harassment. As a bookseller, we've chosen to offer a very broad range of viewpoints, including books that conflict with our company's values and corporate positions. We believe that it's possible to do both. We offer a broad range of viewpoints in our bookstore and support diversity, equity, and inclusion." Now, that is a nice fancy way of saying they don't want to regulate what the books they sell. Like, and it's not like Amazon is exclusively So Amazon isn't exclusively a bookstore that just sells any books. Amazon is a broad range store, so they pick and choose what books they sell. And selling hateful propaganda is essentially saying you don't care about the lives of LGBTQ people, which, to be fair, Amazon also doesn't really have isn't going to face consequence because who's going to stop him? I'm on Twitch. Like I can't stop him. Definitely not from Twitch. But I also know that they're not going to care about the content that I put up. But yeah, in March 2022, Seattle President wouldn't allow Amazon to sponsor Pride events because of Amazon's financial donations to anti-LGBTQ politicians and funding of anti-LGBTQ organizations through the company's Amazon Smile program. Yeah, it's corporate. I have a rainbow and pretending. So, a right-wing group publishes a map of quote-unquote woke schools shortly after mass shooting at elementary school. The map highlights places where diversity training and other quote-unquote liberal actions have occurred. I disagree that they're necessarily inherently liberal actions. They're just actions from someone with empathy. Anyways. So, Liberty Alliance, a Missouri-based anti-LGBTQ quote-unquote sovereign citizen group. So, a white nationalist group. Has launched a quote-unquote woke heat map where people can quote-unquote expose the insane actions of the radical left, from critical race theory to grooming toddlers with sexually explicit books. None of that has anything to do with reality. They're just flat out lying, but like the group's map encourages people to report any quote-unquote woke efforts currently happening across the state. As of May 31st, the map includes 12 such quote-unquote hotspots. The map's hotspots lead to right-wing pages and social media accounts detailing the alleged incidents. One of the hotspots connects to a tweet published by Christina Pushaw, the press secretary of Florida's governor, who said that all pro-LGBTQ allies are pedophiles. So, essentially saying the majority of the population is pedophiles. Look, I get it. The Republican Party has so many of people with that nature that I can understand how she can think that it's the majority of the population, but I assure you, that's a selection bias. It's just far too many conservatives have been convicted of stuff relating to that. Another hotspot links to Libs of TikTok, a right-wing Twitter account that regularly attacks LGBTQ-friendly teachers and gets politicians to push anti-equality legislation. So yeah, they are essentially saying this is saying no, these places are places that should be attacked and hate crimes should be committed against these places. This is active hate. So, Black community calls out media for racist and homophobic monkeypox coverage. As the world continues to deal with COVID-19, we have the friendly monkeypox, which is a disease several countries in Europe and North America, as well as Australia. From the same family as smallpox, monkeypox is endemic to Central and West Africa, but alarm is being raised as it spreads to countries where the populations have little exposure and thus no built-up immunity to the disease. Images from Africa are being used to report on non-African outbreaks. So, of course they are. So, yeah, they're playing European outbreaks, and it's just like, in addition to the racist imagery, because only showing black people having monkeypox, I also said smallpox because of what they mentioned before, which is true. I think monkeypox related to the smallpox vaccine back in the day. But anyways, in addition to the racial imagery surrounding the monkeypox outbreak, LGBTQ communities have been the subject of speculation surrounding the current outbreak because 4 of the initial people to test positive for monkeypox in the UK were self-identified men who have sex with men. Rumors and half-truths spread online, blaming the outbreak on sexual activity between men. So basically, AIDS, the AIDS attitude all over. But this time with monkeypox and racism. Actually, I'm pretty sure the AIDS thing probably had racism too. So, on a brighter note, Nick Cannon honors his 102-year-old great-grandmother for her civil rights contributions. Nick Cannon took some time over the weekend to visit his 102-year-old great-grandmother in North Carolina. Corin, the family's matriarch, Corin Cannon, alma mater, Barbara Scott College, and other leaders, or whatever. Corin was a staunch supporter of civil rights and the first black woman hired at the segregated Cannon Mills plant in 1963. She withstood racism of white employees during her employment and her white supervisor, who told her to, quote-unquote, turn the other cheek and to report the abuse of her coworkers privately. Corin opened the door for other black women and men to attain management positions at the company. So, yeah. Good. So this defiler of the term Oz, Mehmet Oz, the Oz show or whatever, defiler. Only I get to refer to Oz because Oz is a very closeted LGBTQ story. If you read the series. Anyways, former hedge fund CEO David McCormick concedes Pennsylvania primary. Celebrity heart surgeon Mehmet Oz, of the Dr. Oz show. Oz, who will square off against Democrat John Fetterman in November 8th midterm election to replace Republican Senator Pat Toomey. But yeah, I just want to call Dr. Oz awful. And I hate the fact that he uses Oz. That might be his actual last name, though. Anyway, Tulsa massacre survivors advance lawsuit and receive surprising gift. So, May 31st marks the 101st anniversary of the beginning of the Tulsa Race Massacre that destroyed the prosperous Greenwood neighborhood, a community of black wealth and achievement that had been nicknamed Black Wall Street. The horrific attack killed hundreds of people, destroyed thousands of homes and establishments, and obliterated a 35-block neighborhood that had been thriving within the city of Tulsa. As knowledge of the massacre finally spread after decades of whitewashing, the few living survivors and the descendants of those who lived through the violence are finally moving a few steps closer to being compensated for the attack and its lingering impact on them and their community. Oz is his name. He's still a creep. Yeah. No, he's not only... I feel like calling him a creep is almost a downplay. I mean, he's a scam artist and creep. He literally promotes fake cures for stuff for the purposes of making tons of money, regardless of who that harms. But yeah, in 2020, lawyers filed the lawsuit related to the suit was filed on behalf of the last 3 known survivors of the massacre. Leslie Benningfield, Randall Viola Fletcher, and Hughes Van Ellis. So the lawsuit seeks compensation for the survivors and for the descendants of victims. So earlier this month, we're surprised by a non-profit organization, Business for Good, announced that it was donating $1 million to the survivors. The non-profit was founded by a couple of people. Not intending the white savior thing, they just wanted to help. And that ultimately it is. There's a clear difference between generosity and justice. What you see here today is a man and a group of folks who care enough to give up their means, so we don't confuse the two issues. The 101-year fight is ongoing. This deceived me. I thought I was going to have a clearer information on how it's moving forward. Outside of time, because time marches on. Canada calls to tackle Islamophobia 1 year after London attack. Muslim community still reeling from deadly attacks on a Muslim family in London, Ontario last year. Muslim community leaders in Canada are renewing their calls to tackle Islamophobia as they commemorate the 1 year anniversary of a deadly attack on a Muslim family the authorities say was motivated by hate. Like a lot of things, nothing has changed yet, and the fight continues. 2017 assault on a Quebec mosque that left 6 worshippers dead, and a fatal stabbing at another mosque in Toronto in 2020. Far-right groups, homophobia, still a problem. So, Taliban destroying the lives of LGBTQ plus people in Afghanistan. I don't think there's a lot to say here. Taliban is a fascistic organization, and oftentimes the nature of fascistic organizations is control and trying to breed a strong army, so that surprises me not. So Austria apparently is lowering the hurdles for LGBT plus citizens to donate blood. So Austria has lifted a de facto ban on LGBT plus citizens donating blood. The health ministry announced on Friday. Citizens will be prevented from donating blood if they had sex with 3 different partners within the last 3 months, regardless of gender or sexual orientation. Previous laws had prevented anyone in Austria from donating blood if they had quote-unquote risky sex in the last 12 months. People who are trans got completely banned from donating blood. This isn't too, so it seems like their laws weren't too much different from what they are here. Now, I agree with their new law. Sex with 3 different partners in the last 3 months. Yeah, you should be tested for stuff and whatnot. That's reasonable, but it's not gonna matter. But yeah, it's. At least Austria is getting rid of some of the discrimination. China loosens restrictions on gender-affirming surgery, but many trans people are still shut out. Now, it doesn't... so more trans people in China will be able to access gender-affirming surgery and legal recognition under new rules. The National Health Commission in China published new guidelines on April, which lower the age requirement for gender-affirming surgery from 20 to 18. It also drops a requirement that people undergoing such surgeries must first go through a year of psychological counseling or psychiatric therapy, and makes the path to legal recognition easier. Under old regulations, 2 surgeries were required: genital removal and reconstruction, while trans men were also required to have top surgery. The updated rules still require trans people to have genital removal surgery. I don't know what they mean by genital removal surgery. But drop the reconstruction requirement. Top surgery has also been eliminated from the list. Unchanged are the requirements that trans people voice continuous demand for surgeries for at least 5 years, have a clean criminal record, and gain consent from an immediate family member, usually a parent, even in adulthood. So it's still a nightmare to transition in China. But they did a little bit. So, same-sex couples can now adopt children in Croatia. So this is so I guess it's a 6-year struggle in Croatia. This court's decision effectively dismissed an appeal filed by the country's Minister of Demography, Family and Social Programs, which attempted to overturn similar verdict issued by the Zagreb Administration Court in 2021. Taking into account the position of the European Court of Human Rights, the court states that the different treatment of people in similar situations based exclusively on sexual orientation represents a form of discrimination, said the ruling. Although abortion access, on a darker note, abortion access in Croatia appears to be becoming increasingly difficult in public hospitals, despite the fact that it's ostensibly provided by law up to 10 weeks of pregnancy, as many doctors refuse to perform it due to a conscientious objection. In Japan, assuming removal generally means physical castration, possibly. Japan's transit system gets serious about disability access. So, Jinx, Tiamat, want to visit Japan with me? We're apparently visiting a hotel and also Japan, but trains and subways in Tokyo and other cities have long posed a challenge for disabled riders. As Japan prepares to reopen to tourists, here's what's changed. So, in many respects, chaotic, blah, blah, blah. Slowly but surely, however, change has come to make Tokyo and Japan in general more broadly accessible, spurred in part by the city being awarded the 2020 Summer Olympics in 2013. The pandemic blocked the crowds of international visitors expected for the games, and Japan's borders have remained largely closed since March 2020. But modern Japan's experience with disability access has been a mixed bag. On one hand, the country that invented the idea of tactile paving blocks installed on floors and sidewalks to provide guidance. Indeed, bright yellow tenji blocks, as they are known, have been common in train stations and buildings across the country. It is common to find touches such as handrails with braille printing on the underside to serve as a guide. On the other hand, it is also a country where the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare will host a meeting on disability issues, but schedule it in a second-floor space accessible only by stairs, meaning at least one committee member in a wheelchair was unable to attend. You know that classic move of not listening to disabled people. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot of compared to the US, UK, and EU states, only 19% of working age people with disabilities are employed. I wouldn't say compared to, because I just read an article talking about only 19% of people being employed, disabled people being employed. So maybe just UK and EU, and they're just assuming the US. In Japan, children's wheelchairs often resemble baby carriages, which has led to issues of denied accessible service where staff took a strict definition of a wheelchair. But so the system that staff use to assist disabled riders is also undergoing a makeover. Handwritten instructions, seamless experience. Public conceptions of disability improving. Yeah, that's good. But like, oh, there we go. Previously, car and bullet trains have only been a single space reserved for foldable manual wheelchairs, but recent updates have been made to include multiple spaces on the popular Tokyo-Osaka route, including those for powered wheelchairs. Rail operators have loosened the rules regarding mobility scooters, though some restrictions still remain for larger devices. Linking that seems relevant to Amazon. I guess I should. I would think I would be able to see it. Yeah, Jing's team has permission to send links. It's to prevent spam or like harmful links. I guess I should add, this lawsuit is alleged for legal purposes. Oh, another alleged lawsuit? Somehow that doesn't surprise me with Amazon. Yeah, go ahead and send Jinx team on it. She can check it and then message it out. No explicit budget funding for preventing violence and abuse against disabled people. This is a New Zealand issue, it seems. Funding for First Signs, which provides opportunities for families of deaf, hard, and hearing children to learn New Zealand Sign Language. Yeah, it's just, this sounds like more and more budget, being like disabled people are at the bottom of the list. So I publicly support the way in which national strategy to eliminate family violence and sexual violence, acknowledge the high rates of violence and abuse experienced by disabled people. The strategy also commits to a twin track approach, accessible mainstream services and bespoke solutions tailored to specific circumstances. Very relevant info. Okay. Amazon accused of allowing anti-LGBTQ organizations to flourish. Oh yeah, that is relevant because of the die-in thing, and because of all the Amazon's like, oh, we don't care if we sell hate books. We don't care if we sell propaganda to support hate speech and eugenics for trans people. Anyways, it's easier and easier to donate these days, but harder and harder to find out where your money's going, whether it's checkout counter when an employee asks You'd round your total up to some cause you've never heard of. Or online, such as through Amazon Smile. This briefly mentioned, but a new report found that at least 40 LGBTQ plus organizations are benefiting as part of the Amazon Smile program, which has raised $250 million since its launch in 2013. Of course, it's Amazon Smile. Amazon matters, but still needs to call it, yeah. Well, I mean, Amazon matters to me because I am streaming on Twitch, but like, and I've worked for Amazon before. They're awful. But anyways, 8 of these groups, according to the Open Democracy investigation by authors blah blah blah, authors Lou Ferreira and Claire Provost, have been partners of the controversial World Congress of Families Network. Another is a state affiliate of the American Family Association, both considered by Southern Poverty Law Center as anti-LGBT hate groups. Yeah, this is sort of like Disney. Disney does this thing too, where they're like, we care about LGBTQ rights, and then they're just like shoveling the money over to anti-LGBTQ organizations. It's not surprising that what they say and what they do are different. So, charitable organizations must meet the requirement outlined in our participation agreement to be eligible for Amazon Smile. Organizations that engage in, support, encourage, or promote intolerance, hate, terrorism, violence, money laundering, or other illegal activities are not eligible. Said an Amazon spokesperson lying through their teeth. No, they're not necessarily lying if they don't know. But I mean, they are doing that. Adding that the company relies on federal records and the SPLC for such data. If at any point an organization violates this agreement, its eligibility will be revoked. Unless they're the Alliance Defending Freedom or the Family Research Council, which they don't apparently mind completely supporting. Companies, if they really walk the talk, shouldn't be giving their platform to organizations that are working to limit the rights of other people. Said Evelyn Paradis, executive director of the LGBT advocacy group ILGA Europe, in the report. A few others identified, because it's 40 anti-LGBTQ organizations, so I thought this would break them all down. Anyways, so a few others identified the report are focus on the family, which has been criticized by the SPLC, Human Life International, which has called on people to quote-unquote oppose the LGBT movement, and claimed that homosexuality is linked to pedophilia, and the American Center for Law and Justice, which is led by President Trump's personal lawyer, Jay Sekulow, and has intervened in numerous U.S. court cases opposing basically it's a thing opposing LGBT marriage equality. Oh, and Billy Graham Evangelistic Association, whose president, Franklin Graham, has called Satan the architect of same-sex marriage and Islam evil and wicked, the report noted. Several major actions by companies registered with Amazon Smile that seem to contradict the company's past pledges. I mean, Amazon's not going to stop. They've already said they don't want to stop selling books like I already forgot the name of it. The super anti-trans book. Target stopped selling it. It's got a picture of a girl with a little cutout circle around where her uterus and ovaries would be. These include intervened in numerous court cases, claimed homosexuality opens the door to demonic realm. God, just makes homosexuality seem cool. No wonder I'm a trans lesbian. And legalizing same-sex marriage enforces a demonically driven immoral agenda. Described COVID-19 as the consequential wrath of God and punishment for sins, including society's proclivity towards lesbianism and homosexuality. Attack TV shows, including American Idol, for increasing social acceptance of stuff, and by presenting LGBT people to its viewers as ordinary folks. Threaten staff members with immediate involuntary termination if they're found to personally express support for same-sex marriage equality. Yeah, no, this is what Amazon apparently cares about. Thank you, OAS Music. Church of Scotland backs removal of gender dysphoria diagnosis as a part of gender law reform. So the Church of Scotland, or Irreversible Damage by Abigail Shrier. That's a book that's still being sold on Amazon. Anyways, the Church of Scotland has backed the government plans to discontinue mandatory physiological assessments for trans people looking to obtain a gender recognition certificate. However, the church has not shown equal support for measures that would lower the minimum age for a certificate to be attained from 18 to 16. That relates to medical consent. I believe is 16, and I think that's why they particularly want to lower it there. But so to obtain a GRC, trans people must first get a diagnosis of gender dysphoria, which can take years because of all the NHS BS. However, drafted legislation proposes that trans people in Scotland should no longer have to receive the diagnosis before receiving their gender recognition certificate and having their identity legally acknowledged. This move comes as part of the country's ongoing discussions around reforming gender recognition laws. Church of Scotland's representative David Bradwell said religious leaders are convinced of the evidence that the removal of the medical diagnosis is needed. So, Church of Scotland, probably better than the Catholic Church. Ryanair accused of discrimination for putting South Africans through an Afrikaans test. So, a new rule implemented by Ryanair to put South Africans through a general knowledge test in Afrikaans has sparked serious allegations of discrimination. The airline is currently conducting the test for every person traveling with a South African passport and is completely in Afrikaans. However, there are people, a lot of people were quick to point out that there were 11 other languages which are popular in South Africa, and Afrikaans ranks third. Afrikaans being the one that's based off of Dutch, so... it is also a language that played a controversial role in oppression of black citizens during apartheid. Zulu and, sorry if I slaughter it, Xhosa are currently the two most popular languages in South Africa. May I clear, the purpose of the test is to curb high number of people who travel with fake South African passport. But yeah, this is just to weed out people who are not white decrease the number, sort of like ID laws. It affects white people the least. It's a similar thing with Afrikaans. Although, on a brighter note, South African Sign Language set to become an official language. So, South Africa approved the constitutional 18th Amendment Bill for Public Commitment, which will finally be making South African Sign Language the country's 12th official language. As I mentioned, all 11 of those languages before are official languages, and which means Afrikaans being the third on that list in terms of popularity is just a dick move. So this is a massive step in the right direction, because sign language, if you don't know, is always a different language. Like, it doesn't function the same language as the same way verbal languages do. So like, yeah, and I think I did a story earlier about a deaf and blind language that is being developed currently. I forgot the name of it. South African Sign Language has been mooted as an official language for a number of years, with Parliament Committee proposing its adoption in 2020. So yes, not much to say about that. That's just a good thing, because sign languages in general should be treated as official. I don't know that ASL is treated as it's treated as its own separate language. I don't know if it counts as an official language. Off the top of my head. Bangkok, Thailand celebrates its first Pride, so in 16 years, so I don't know how much of that is because of a little bit more acceptance or not, but yeah, there's still lots of hurdles, lots of discrimination. I mean, if it's the first one in 16 years, that says a lot. I don't want people to think we're different, said Maisa Betcom, competitor in trans beauty pageant Miss Tiffany Universe. I wish same-sex marriage law passed so there would be laws that protect and decrease gender inequality, she added. Yeah. It's good. I'm glad various places are moving forward a little bit, even if only a little. And if they can feel safe enough to do this, that's a step in the right direction. And visibility is important. Unfortunately, Turkish police violently arrested and torture Istanbul Pride organizers during a peaceful protest. Turkey has been I feel like Turkey's been getting worse and worse recently. Turkish police brutally beat and allegedly tortured nearly a dozen LGBTQ plus activists in Istanbul who are simply celebrating the start of Pride Month. Solidarity, by the way, to all the protesters, and whether in Taiwan, Turkey, or England, or anywhere else, New Zealand, everywhere. It's just, yeah. Activists came together to celebrate 30 years of Istanbul Pride, and a bunch of police decided to be awful. And yeah, they need to be called out for this. Rubber bullets, tear gas. It's back to Stonewall stuff in Turkey, apparently. So, this will be brief. Gender critical Helen Joyce says she wants to reduce number of trans people. I covered this yesterday on my YouTube channel. Yes, ASL is an official language, but not in the USA. Interesting. So I covered this yesterday on my main channel, Ozma in the Dark on YouTube. It's long. It's like a 2.5 hour video. But like. So it's this video. There's Wine with Women, all that stuff. Like, go ahead and check out my video about it. I won't go into detail outside of the fact that yes, Helen Joyce details a breakdown of plans for eugenics. So. Survey shows discrimination and abuse experienced by disabled fans at away matches. So, more than 600 disabled fans respond to the survey by Level Playing Field. More than 2/5, 43%. Said they had been subjected to some form of abuse or negative attitudes in an away game in the last 5 years. More than a quarter said they've been subjected to verbal abuse, while about 16% had experienced disability-related offensive songs, chants, or gestures. 13% said that the fear of disability abuse is a barrier when attending away matches. Yeah, and a poor level of disability awareness, and YouTube stream of Helen's was great. Ha! With the emphasis on hell. Yes. It was definitely a hell stream. We're committed to working alongside our clubs and disabled supporters associations to ensure this and encourage them to do good practice. Sure, whatever. UK plans to send LGBTQ asylum seekers to Rwanda to wait their fate. And discriminatory laws in Rwanda are worse. So LGBTQ asylum seekers could face persecution under Britain's controversial Rwanda resettlement scheme that was inspired by Donald Trump. So I felt like I was flying, recalling that he was granted refugee status in UK in 2010. So I grew up as a gay man in Uganda, where homosexuality can be punished by life imprisonment, and where he had been targeted for campaigning for LGBTQ rights. Finally got asylum in the UK, and the British Home Office announced plans to relocate asylum seekers to Rwanda. And by the way, not Eastern Europeans. I believe it's largely black people. But yeah, this is just this is not surprising, and the Home Office is just it's a shit show over in UK. Labour MP Nadia Whittome calls for investigation into NHS blocking trans pregnancy advice. So at least someone's calling him out. A thorough investigation into why NHS management blocked pregnancy advice for trans and non-binary people for almost a year. Oh, okay. So they did publish the resources on Tuesday, but like after Whistleblower revealed it had been blocked for almost a year. That's still BS that it took a year for that to happen. So, on our final note, football referees come out as gay to show what the beautiful game is for everyone. So football referees Craig Napier and Lloyd Wilson have come out as gay in an effort to make the Scottish scene more LGBTQ inclusive. It seems like Scotland is doing a lot better job at this than England. Weeks after Jake Daniels became the first English male professional footballer to come out as gay in 3 decades, 2 Scottish referees have used Pride Month to come out in a message to other football figures. So this is just a good thing. Lots of good things. Well, lots of bad things too. News is like that. The good, the bad, and the ugly. The stream is in the ending mode. So, like, after the ending, I'll place out. I'll raid a different stream if I can find it. So, I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and yeah, have a good one.
Is indivisible. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Sex and race, because they are easy, visible differences, have been the primary ways of organizing human beings into superior and inferior groups, and into the cheap labor on which this system still depends.
No, you all tell me to go and hide my tail between my legs. I have been beaten. I have had my nose broken. I have been thrown in jail. I have lost my job. I have lost my apartment for gay liberation. And you all treat me this way? What the fuck's wrong with you all?
We want no more segregation. We will accept no more discussion of segregation. And I would appreciate it if you would stop shaking your head in agreement when I don't think you understand what we are talking about.
Freedom is merely privilege extended unless enjoyed by one and all.
All we are doing with this bill is allowing 2 people who love each other to have that love recognised by way of marriage. That is all we are doing.
I speak not for myself, but for those without voice can be heard. Those who have fought for their rights, their right to live in peace.
Sometimes, especially in this body, I feel as though if Christ himself walked through these doors and said what he said thousands of years ago, he would be maligned as a radical and rejected from these doors.